Well, folks, we are officially less than 1 week away from the biggest election of our lifetime. We're going to get to all the news, and news there is in a moment. First, your reminder, Matt Walsh's film, Am I Racist? The comedy that's now the biggest documentary of the decade is streaming exclusively at Daily Wire Plus. Breaking records is our biggest day one release ever. More on that coming up. First, take a look at the trailer.
What do you feel in your body when you hear the term white people?
I feel like a cringe about it. Cringe is a good word.
White, straight, cisgender man is the top of the pile.
I'm on the top of the pile. It's me.
Can I just propose a toast? Raise a glass if you're racist. To racist.
That was really weird.
Don't deny that you're racist. Try not to be racist, but also don't realize that you're. Until we're willing to talk about these things, healing can't really begin.
My daughter's 4 years old. She's still watching Disney movies and choosing a white princess.
Have you talked to her about that?
All the time.
Is racism inherent to whiteness?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, probably. Well,
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Did race exist as a reality before?
we made race exist.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. What do you mean? What you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you.
Am I Racist? Now streaming only on Daily Wire Plus. Rated PG-13.
The movie's so good. You should really go check it out right now at Daily Wire Plus. Plus, there are a bunch of extras that you can get when you become a subscriber. Head on over to Daily Wire Plus and subscribe right now. So let us begin with the state of the race, because last night could have been a big night for Kamala Harris. She was at the Ellipse, Washington, D.C., same place that Donald Trump held his Stop the Steal rally back on January 6th of 2021. And she was there to show that she had amazing support. She had bussed in tens of thousands of supporters. Of course, Washington, D.C. is an area that goes 90% for Kamala Harris, so it'd be kind of a shock if she wasn't able to bring tens of thousands of people to the Ellipse. And she gives a speech, which we'll get to in a minute. And Joe Biden just craps all over her campaign in the worst possible way, at the worst possible moment. One might think he didn't want her to be president of the United States. All these things make a difference because this race is unbelievably close. It remains unbelievably close. Anyone who is telling you that they know exactly how this is going to go is lying to you. Okay, according to the latest Real Clear Politics polling average, Donald Trump is ahead by 2.4 percentage points in Georgia. He's up 1 in North Carolina, 0.6 in Pennsylvania. Harris is actually up 0.5 in Michigan. He is up 0.6 in Wisconsin, and he's up 2.5 in Arizona. In other words, this one looks like it's going to come down almost certainly to the blue wall states yet again. And all of those are within the margin of error. So, by the way, is Nevada. So this election is really tight, which means that small moves either way probably decide the election, just as they did in 2016, just as they did in 2020. ABC News, however, is reporting that there is, in fact, a slight Trump edge in the battleground states, according to their latest polling. Here's Rick Klein.
7 states that are almost certainly going to determine the presidency. Things close as ever, and we're seeing a very slight Trump edge in several of the battleground states. Kamala Harris's numbers have gone down just a little bit.
So it is true that Kamala Harris has dropped in the polls in the battleground states. The fetch ran out, the brat ran out, the joy ran out, and she has been receding back to the norm. And she's going right back to where she was, which is a pretty unpopular vice president. However, CNN Harry Enten, he makes the case that it's possible that all of the polling is now being grouped, which is probably true. Right? This is something I've been pointing out for a while here on the program, is that when all the polls say the same thing, typically that means that pollsters are reconstructing their voter screen exactly how they determine who's going to be a likely voter. They are constructing those so as to achieve a dead even result so that they're not going to be called out for getting it wrong. There's safety in the herd if you're a pollster. Harry Enten makes the case that while historically the polls have underestimated Trump's support, it's possible that pollsters have already adjusted for that because they were embarrassed by 2016 and 2020. Here's Enten explaining.
I think a lot of folks are sort of counting in that Donald Trump will, in fact, be underestimated by the polls. But when I'm looking at the evidence, I think you got to hold on a second. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe it'll happen. But I think that there are folks who are underestimating the idea that maybe Kamala Harris will be underestimated by the polls at least a week out.
And again, because all these polls are so close, if the polls are underestimating Harris, she wins. If the polls are underestimating Trump, he wins. So this is a very, very tight race. So Harris decided that it was time for her to make her closing statement last night. So she goes to the Ellipse, and she is just an underwhelming candidate. She's been underwhelming her entire career. The thing about Kamala Harris is that she always disappoints. She always disappoints. Her 2019-2020 presidential campaign started with exactly the same sort of brat energy. Remember, she had a big rally in Oakland, California, and she polled pretty well. And then she had a pretty good first debate with Joe Biden where she called him a racist, and then she had to walk that back, and then her campaign collapsed. That is the story of Kamala Harris. Anytime she is in a position to succeed, she then fails. And then she fails up because somebody plucks her for the next step up the ladder, like Joe Biden plucked her from obscurity and failure to be vice president of the United States. And she was saved from her own failing vice presidency by the fact that the president of the United States basically died on stage with Donald Trump. So last night was her moment. It was going to be the moment to shine, the moment when she demonstrated to the American public why she should be president of the United States. And this has been the case that is not in the offing. I did a debate with Sam Harris over at the Free Press. Bari Weiss moderated it over Trump versus Harris. And it's totally worth the watch. You should go check it out, or worth the listen. You can download Bari's podcast, Honestly, in which you can hear us debate this question for about 2.5 hours. Well, the thing that was kind of amazing about the debate, and of course Sam is a big advocate of Kamala Harris, is that Sam makes a very strong anti-Trump case. I think I make a very strong pro-Trump case. No one makes a strong pro-Kamala Harris case because that case is not possible to make. She is a candidate without a purpose. There is no reason for her to be in this race other than as a placeholder for the dead man who originally won the nomination. She has no independent understanding of why she should be president. She can't explain why she's different from Joe Biden, politically speaking. She can't explain any of her policies in detail because she's been handed them 5 seconds ago and they might switch. There is no affirmative case for Kamala Harris. Again, that doesn't mean that she might not win. She could win because people hate Trump that much, but there is no affirmative case. So last night was her chance to make the affirmative case. And you know what? Absolutely flat. It's like a bottle of soda that you leave out on the table with the cap off. That is Kamala Harris's campaign. So she starts off doing what you knew she was there to do, really, which is scaremonger about January 6th. So here she is, standing at the ellipse, surrounded by some 75,000 people, apparently, and talking about how Donald Trump is a terrible, bad, terrible, Hitlerian, terrible, bad man. January 6th, January 6th. January 6th is bad.
We know who Donald Trump is. He is the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol to overturn the will of the people in a free and fair election.
I would love for somebody to ask her in an interview, if she would ever do one between now and the election, if Donald Trump wins, will you certify his win? You and your party have declared him Hitlerian. Will you certify his win? Or will you save democracy by burning down democracy? This seems like a legitimate question to ask somebody like Kamala Harris. My favorite part of that clip is where you got the siren in the background. That, of course, would be the ambulance from the loony bin getting ready to take Joe Biden away in the background. In any case, she then continues along these lines. She lies about Donald Trump's abortion stance, for example. She has to lie about Trump because that's all she's got. All the entire Democratic Party has is Donald Trump. They love Donald Trump because they believe that they can always beat Donald Trump. And half the time it's been true, but half the time it has not been true. Here is Kamala Harris lying about Donald Trump on abortion.
Trump's not done. He would ban abortion nationwide, restrict access to birth control and put IVF treatments at risk, and force states to monitor women's pregnancies.
Okay, again, none of that is true. Literally none of that is true. Just making stuff up. But if she can scaremonger about Trump, that prevents her from having to talk about, the fact that she has no reason to be in this race at all in the first place. She then suggested, of course, that Donald Trump is a fascist who wants to jail his enemies.
Unlike Donald Trump, I don't believe people who disagree with me are the enemy. He wants to put them in jail.
And that's a big line. She says people who disagree with her aren't enemies, but he wants to put people in jail, which is amazing because they literally are trying to put him in jail. If Donald Trump is not elected president of the United States, he will be in jail by the middle of next year. It's that simple, and everybody knows it. The DOJ is coming after him, every place they can come after him, under her administration. The amount of gaslighting in this race is truly an astonishing thing. Donald Trump is going to put his opponents in jail? Did he put Hillary Clinton in jail? He did not. Are you trying to put him in jail, Kamala Harris? The answer, of course, is yes. And sometimes Joe Biden will burble that out in a moment of senility. But it's real. But apparently, Donald Trump is the real threat to the Republic. Okay, then she gets to the actual case for herself. The actual case for herself is, as always, absolutely underwhelming. Truly underwhelming. So she begins by explaining that she is a middle-class child. Wow, unbelievable. No, I hate this sort of stuff. I really do. Okay, how you grew up as a child has literally no bearing, none, on whether you make a good president or a bad president, or whether you're going to be a good person or a bad person. I know many people who grew up poor who are wonderful people. I know many people who grew up rich who are wonderful people. It turns out that virtue is not relegated to one end of the income spectrum. I also grew up a middle-class child. So the hell what? So did most Americans. And here's Kamala Harris trotting out her greatest credential, which is that her parents were not high income, despite the fact that both of them were professors at Berkeley.
I get it. I still remember our mother sitting at that yellow Formica table, late at night, cup of tea in hand, a pile of bills in front of her, trying to make it all work. And I've heard from so many of you who are facing even greater financial pressures.
Wow. So much empathy from this woman who's been given everything that she ever had. Truly. I mean, it's an amazing, amazing thing. Folks, if there's one thing that we know about Kamala Harris, this is a person with empathy who cares about cost, which is why she brought about 40-year highs in inflation. But the thing is, you care about cost. And you don't need to get scammed into working with one of the big cell phone companies just because you're trying to cut cost. Every single year when Apple releases the new iPhone, the big carriers play that same old game. Sign your life away for the next 2 years and get a free iPhone. Don't fall for it. With Pure Talk, you can get great savings on the new iPhone 16, and you can still get an affordable data plan that fits your needs on America's most dependable 5G network. How would I know? Well, because I have that new iPhone 16 from Pure Talk. Bottom line, stop falling into the same traps and overpaying for data you're not going to use. With Pure Talk, for just $35 a month, get unlimited talk, text, and 15 gigs of data, plus mobile hotspot on America's most dependable 5G network. But wait, it gets even better. When you switch to Pure Talk on a qualifying plan, you'll get 1 year free of Daily Wire Plus Insider. That means access to our full library of movies, series, and documentaries. And listen up, folks. Now you can get exclusive access to Matt Walsh's latest bombshell, Am I Racist? Trust me, the left is squirming about this one. That's not all. You're getting uncensored, ad-free daily shows, a full year of our kids' platform, Benki, and your very own Leftist Tears Tumblr. The only way you can get this special offer is by going to puretalk.com/Shapiro or call and mention my name. Stop overpaying for your cell phone plan. Go to puretalk.com/Shapiro today. Switch to a qualifying plan. Get 1 year free of Daily Wire Plus Insider. Also, election season, you may have noticed, is in full swing. The future is on all of our minds. But you know what the future holds for all of us? Death. I know it's a little depressing, but you can get life insurance. No matter what happens over the next 4 years, one thing remains constant: the need to protect your loved ones. That is where Policy Genius comes in. Let's talk about harsh reality for a moment. If something were to happen to you, would your family actually be able to cover expenses? Mortgage payments, college tuition, daily living costs, those don't just go away. Life insurance can ensure your family has the financial support they need, even if you're not there to provide it. Did you know 41% of Americans don't have the life insurance coverage they need? Don't be part of that terrible statistic. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. They help you find the right life insurance policy at the best price so you can have peace of mind knowing your family's protected. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ben, getting life insurance sounds like a big hassle. Well, let me tell you, it doesn't have to be. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies starting at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius makes it easy. Their licensed support team helps you get what you need fast. Save time and money on providing a financial safety net for your family. Head on over to policygenius.com/Shapiro or click that link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes. See how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/Shapiro. Then she gets to how she is going to work to basically amnesty every illegal immigrant in the country. But don't worry, she'll work with Congress to amnesty everybody in the country.
We must acknowledge we are a nation of immigrants. And I will work with Congress to pass immigration reform, including an earned path to citizenship for hardworking immigrants like farm workers and our dreamers.
But don't worry, she's also really hard on the border. See, this is where Kamala Harris is a mess. If you listen to her about Border Patrol last night, pretty soon she's going to be vowing to build a wall. Here we go.
And when I am president, we will quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully, prosecute the cartels, and give Border Patrol the support they so desperately need.
Wow, she's going to fix the border. Half her speech last night was about how she's going to fix problems that she herself created. Actually, Fox News ran a chyron to that effect, saying, Harris, I will fix problems I made. Well, I mean, that's pretty much her campaign. Here she was, for example, explaining how she's going to lower costs after being, the other half of the administration that led to the worst cost inflation in 40 years in the country.
Our top priority as a nation 4 years ago was to end the pandemic and rescue the economy. Now, our biggest challenge is to lower costs that were rising even before the pandemic and that are still too high.
And well, that's weird. So apparently the inflation has nothing to do with her and Joe Biden just magically descended upon them and then they fixed it, which is weird because it isn't true at all. At all. So in the end, she says, you will have to make a decision. You, the American people, you'll have to make a decision between this empty vessel, coat of fresh paint, and a beat up old jalopy, or Donald Trump.
1 week from today, you will have the chance to make a decision that directly impacts your life, the life of your family, and the future of this country we love.
Wow. The sincerity. Wow. She is truly an astonishingly charismatic person. I'm being unbelievably sarcastic right now. No Kamala Harris rally would be complete without her referring to the Gwen Walls famous line, turn the page. Here we go. Kamala turning the page from Kamala Harris to Kamala Harris.
In 7 days, we have the power. Each of you has the power to turn the page and start writing the next chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told.
Turn the page from Kamala Harris to Kamala Harris. That's a hell of a campaign. What was the campaign really about? The seamy underside of the Democratic Party is, of course, the radicalism that they have been fostering and promoting over the course of the last 10 to 15 years. And nowhere was that more evident than in the middle of the speech. A protester decided to get up and wave a giant Palestinian flag right in front of her face as she spoke. Here's what it looked like. There's a reporter, Spencer Lindquist, pointing this out. And nobody's doing anything, right? The entire Kamala Harris crowd is just sitting there and enjoying the spectacle of this human waving a giant Palestinian flag in front of Kamala Harris. That is there is your Democratic Party. Okay, so that's Kamala's campaign. But haunting the Kamala Harris campaign is a ghost. The ghost of President Present. I'm talking, of course, about Joe Biden. Remember him? He's still, at least technically, alive. And he is wandering the landscape in search of cameras. And every time he opens his mouth, something bad happens to Kamala Harris. He's haunting her for her great sin in having killed him. It's basically the ghost of Hamlet informing young Hamlet that it's time. Young Hamlet, in this case, would be Trump, presumably, to take out Claudius. The time has come. The time has come. So Joe Biden, and the Kamala Harris campaign doesn't want anything to do with Joe Biden. They're embarrassed by Joe Biden. They don't know why they still have to pretend that Joe Biden is important. But they do because he has to sit there as the president because otherwise she'd be responsible for everything. So Alex Thompson on CNN pointed this out yesterday, that Harris does not want anything to do with Joe Biden. She doesn't want him near. She doesn't want him far. She doesn't want him alive. She doesn't want him anywhere.
Alex, I mean, look, if they did want him to campaign for her, he would be campaigning for her.
Yes,
and
even when he campaigned in Pittsburgh on Saturday, the campaign sends out a daily email of all the surrogates, includes actors and actresses and members of the cabinet. They did not mention that Joe Biden was going to be in Pittsburgh on Saturday, even in that email.
So they just left the president of the United States off the list.
They did, and they could claim oversight, but the fact of the matter is, they don't believe that the president is helpful in this final stretch.
And you can see why. Because every time Joe Biden says something, it's awful. So yesterday, before his big boo-boo, we'll get to his big boo-boo in 1 second. It's a giant boo-boo. It is a boo-boo that could blow the heart out of the Kamala Harris campaign. Really that bad. The October surprise, it turns out, was with us all along. The true joy was the friends we made along the way. Friends like Joe Biden. So, Joe Biden, he says dumb crap all the time. Yesterday, for example, he suggested that he wanted to take comedian Tony Hinchcliffe for a swim. I don't know what that means. Is he being romantic or is he being murderous?
That's why today I'm proud to announce we're delivering $3 billion in funding from my Inflation Reduction Act to help clean up and modernize ports in 27 different states and territories, from Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, and beyond, including, yes, Puerto Rico. I'd take that guy for a swim out there. Anyway.
That's weird. I don't know why you'd want to swim with him. It's a little bit odd, Joe. But why is that important? The reason that's important is because for the last several days, since the Madison Square Garden rally on Sunday, the Democrats have been suggesting that Tony Hinchcliffe, a comedian unrelated to the Trump campaign, who made a bad joke about Puerto Rico being a floating island of garbage or some such nonsense, he made a joke, because that's what he does, he's a roast comedian. They suggested that that was a stand-in for the entire Trump campaign. A comedian who is not, in fact, running for president and has nothing to do with the Trump campaign in any capacity, formal or informal. He was just there and he spoke, and he shouldn't have, and that was it. Well, it seems like if you're going to do like a 3-day controversy about how Puerto Rico is an island of garbage because a comedian said so, and you're going to attribute that to Trump, who, by the way, has already denounced this. I mean, Donald Trump went on Sean Hannity's show and said, like, I have nothing to do with that. I don't know who that guy is, which is almost certainly true. The very probable reality is that Don Jr. watches Tony Hinchcliffe and asked him to be there or something. That is the most probable explanation for why Hinchcliffe was even on the stage. In fact, it's been reported. But here's Trump denouncing this.
I was told and made aware that you had no idea about this comedian who made comments.
I have no idea who he is. Somebody said there was a comedian that joked about Puerto Rico or something, and I have no idea who he is. Never saw him, never heard of him, and don't want to hear of him. But I have no idea. They put a comedian in, which everybody does. You throw comedians in. You don't vet them and go crazy. It's nobody's fault. But somebody said some bad things. Now, what they've done is taken somebody that has nothing to do with the party, has nothing to do with us, said something, and they try and make a big deal. But I don't know who it is. I don't even know who put him in. And I can't imagine it's a big deal. I've done more for Puerto Rico than any president, I think, that's ever been president.
So, Trump denounces the comedian. Also, that guy's a comedian. What if I were to tell you that Joe Biden, the sitting current president of the United States, the head of a party who's routinely called his political opponents enemies of the Republic, he literally did a speech in front of a blood-red Independence Hall suggesting that ultra super MAGA Republicans are effectively traitors to the country. What if I told you the president, who's the head of a party, who's labeled Donald Trump a Nazi and his rally on Sunday a Nazi rally, called half of Americans garbage? Because that's exactly what happened. Well, that's garbage. So is most higher education. But you know what isn't? Grand Canyon University, a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. They believe we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. GCU believes in equal opportunity and that the American dream starts with purpose. GCU equips you to serve others in ways that promote human flourishing and create a ripple effect of transformation for generations to come. By honoring your career calling, you impact your family, your friends, and your community. Change the world for good by putting others before yourself to glorify God. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, hybrid learning environments, they're designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. With 350 academic programs as of June 2024, GCU meets you where you are and provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others, that's yours. Let it flourish. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit GCU.edu. You got no reason to go to a university where they're going to just teach you a bunch of woke trash as opposed to things that actually matter. Go find your purpose today at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable, beautiful campus. Go check them out, gcu.edu. Also, want to talk about the radical left's agenda? Look no further than their insane stance on abortion. The DNC is now openly advocating for free abortions. In fact, they actually had like an abortion clinic at the DNC. Kamala Harris continues to push for the most extreme abortion policies imaginable. The media is calling this the abortion election. They're right about one thing. We do need to stand up against this evil. That's why I support Preborn, the largest pro-life organization in America. Preborn has strategically positioned their clinics in the areas with the highest abortion rates. They've already saved over 300,000 babies. How? By showing moms the truth through ultrasound technology. When a mom sees her baby on ultrasound and experiences God's love through Preborn's compassionate care, she becomes twice as likely to choose life. Think about that. One ultrasound costing just $28 can be the difference between life and death for an unborn child. 5 ultrasounds, just $140. To donate securely, dial pound 250, say keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or if you have the means, consider a leadership gift of $5,000 to sponsor Preborn's entire network for 24 hours. That's potentially saving 200 babies in just one day. All gifts tax deductible. Head on over to preborn.com/Ben. That's preborn.com/Ben. Joe Biden was doing some sort of Zoom interview from his basement. And he just drops it right out there. He's on Voto Latino, and he decides that he is just going to call half of Americans garbage. That's what he says here, folks. Okay, I'm going to let you listen to it because I'll explain to you how the White House and media are trying to spin this one out. It is, honestly, the cover-up is as bad as the crime. So what Biden says here is truly an awful thing to say. It's worse than deplorables. It's worse than bitter clingers. It's worse than any of the other times Democrats have labeled their political opponents the trash heap of humanity. This is like the apotheosis of that, and it is a direct outgrowth of believing that Donald Trump is a Hitler figure and all of his followers are actually little brown shirts. Okay, if you keep saying that kind of stuff all over and over and over, if you keep saying Trump is a Nazi and that he holds Nazi rallies, It is not a leap from that to his followers are garbage, which is what Joe Biden says right here. But the cover-up is amazing. So first we'll play. I want you to hear for yourself. Here is Joe Biden saying the thing. And this is not a Rorschach test, okay? This is not like a blob on a piece of paper. You can hear clearly what he's saying. There's no doubt what he's saying because it's on tape. Here we go.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Okay, the only garbage I see out there is his supporters. Inflection down. End of sentence. Okay, it's clear what he's saying. He's saying that you, if you support Donald Trump, are garbage. Saying that I am garbage. Everyone who does not support Kamala Harris is garbage. His supporters, Donald Trump's, are garbage. That is the direct quote from Joe Biden. That's what the quote is. There is no other way to read it. But don't worry, the media are going to do their work. The media are going to pretend, I kid you not, that there was an apostrophe in that sentence. Now, I know you're listening thinking, wait, where's the apostrophe? I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, I'm going to read you the transcript. Quote, just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican I know, the Puerto Rico where I'm from, in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done, everything we've seen. Okay, that is 100% fidelity, transcript, directly read by me of what Joe Biden just said. And you heard it yourself. You heard what he said. Here is how the media are attempting to characterize this. Are you ready for this? This is amazing. It's amazing. They are trying to claim that what he actually said, you didn't hear what you heard. What he actually said was the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. Supporter, singular, apostrophe S. Is his he's trying to say that he's only talking about Tony Hinchcliffe. The only garbage out there is Tony Hinchcliffe's garbage. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable and it's un-American. Okay, so that's how they're going to attempt to reread the transcript. They're just inserting an apostrophe. Now, they didn't reach out to the White House to get comment on whether that's what Joe Biden meant. They just said that. That was Jonathan Lemire over at Politico, attempting to just rewrite the thing you just heard. Hey, the sentence doesn't even make any sense along those lines. It doesn't make any sense. If you read it that way, say they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporter, apostrophe is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable and it's un-American. I mean, that he wasn't even talking about, like, that doesn't make any sense. Either he's an incoherent, senile old man and he can't finish proper sentences, or he meant precisely what he said, which is Donald Trump's supporters, plural, are garbage. There's only one way that sentence makes any sense, and that is without the apostrophe. So they're attempting to now use phantom apostrophes to save Joe Biden from himself. So Joe Biden immediately picks up on this and he tweets out, earlier today, I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, which is the only word I can think of to describe it. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say. The comments at that rally don't reflect who we are as a nation. That is not true. That is not what he said. I'm sorry that tape exists to Joe Biden. I'm sorry that is what? Okay, so they're just rewriting in real time. Clearly rewriting in real time. What is happening right there? I don't believe him. You know who else doesn't believe him? Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, who's overlooked as Kamala Harris's vice presidential pick because he's a Jew. Here was Josh Shapiro yesterday saying, I don't believe that. That's what? Like that meant what? No.
Governor, first off, just what's your response to that comment from President Biden, where it sounds like he's calling Trump supporters there garbage?
Yeah, look, I had not heard that until now, Caitlin, so I'm kind of giving you my fresh reaction to it. I would never insult the good people of Pennsylvania or any Americans, even if they chose to support a candidate that I didn't support.
So Kamala Harris is for sure not going to say that. Josh Shapiro is a clever politician. He is skilled, he is able, and he's in a purple state. Kamala Harris is not going to denounce Joe Biden. She won't, because she's afraid of Joe Biden and she's afraid of the base of the Democratic Party, who actually do believe that Trump supporters are garbage. Again, you can't argue for years on end, for going on 10 years, that Donald Trump is Hitler, that everyone who goes to a Donald Trump rally is a red-hatted Nazi, but that his supporters are kind, generous, good people. That is not an argument you can make. This is the feature, not the bug. This is part and parcel of the entire Democratic agenda. People who support Donald Trump, according to Joe Biden and most of the id of the Democratic Party, they themselves are garbage. That's what he's saying. I'll play the clip again, okay? See if you can spot the apostrophe in this clip. I want you, seriously, I think it's important because the media are lying to you. The same way they lied for 3 years about this guy's health and then told the truth for 2 weeks just to get him out of the race and then started lying again. They are lying to you right now. When they tell you there's an apostrophe in the sentence, I'm going to play you the clip. I'm going to play the clip. You decide whether there's an apostrophe in the sentence. And he's talking about singular Tony Hinchcliffe with an apostrophe.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latino is unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Why would he even say his supporters? Why wouldn't he just say Tony Hinchcliffe's or the comedians or this guy's? It's clear what he's saying. It's perfectly obvious what he's saying. But Politico trying to spin their way out of it. It's an amazing lie that they're trying to spin their way out. Again, I'm going to use this from now on. Like, seriously, this is gentlemen all over the landscape. Apparently, this is a get out of the jail free card. So if you ever make the mistake of saying, the only thing that's sexy is my wife's friends, she hangs around sexy people, you're not saying that your wife's friends are sexy. What you're actually saying is, the only things that's sexy is my wife's friend, apostrophe S. She hangs around sexy people, which really means that you're saying your wife is sexy because your wife's friend hangs around with sexy people, namely your wife. Get it? Just add that apostrophe in there and boom, get out of jail free card, gentlemen. Who believes this crap? Seriously, what stupidity? What absolute trash? And they think you're a moron. They truly think you're stupid. They really do. Listen, you left him in place. You could have 25th Amendmented this guy. If you think he's senile and he's out of it, you could have gotten rid of him. You won't. Why won't you? Because if you got rid of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris would become president. And if she became president, she'd own every single little bit of it. You were too clever by half. You ousted Joe Biden as the candidate. You got rid of him because you felt he was senile and addled and incapable of beating Donald Trump. But you left him as president to haunt you, to pop out of closets and say, Trump's part of the garbage. Okay, we'll see how this goes for your campaign. I do not think the answer is well. Here's some footage last night. Marco Rubio was at a rally with Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. Trump was on stage, and Rubio came charging up the stage to inform Donald Trump. Donald Trump was magnanimous, man, about all of this.
Good man, this one.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but I have breaking news for you, Mr. President. You may not have heard this. Just moments ago, Joe Biden stated that our supporters are garbage. Are garbage. He's talking about the Border Patrol. He's talking about nurses. He's talking about teachers. He's talking about everyday Americans who love their country and want to dream big again and support you, Mr. President. And I hope their campaign is about to apologize for what Joe Biden just said. We are not garbage. We are patriots who love America. And thank you for running, Mr. President.
Trump then got up there and he said, you have to forgive him. He's senile. By the way, even folks over at CNN, people like Chris Chaliza, he's like, the latest attempt to transcribe this by the White House as supporter apostrophe S, as opposed to supporters, which he clearly says is laughable. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So who are you going to believe? Your ears or the White House transcript and Joe Biden's apparatchiks in the media? So Tim Walz, the vice presidential candidate for Kamala Harris, the inflatable at the used car lot, the assistant high school football coach who doesn't know how football works, that guy, he was asked by CBS News about Joe Biden's bizarre and ugly comment. And here's what he had to say.
I want to put it into a larger context of your recent comment comparing the Sunday Trump rally to a Nazi rally. And I would also throw in there Obama's bitter clingers, guns and religion comment from a while back, the deplorable line from Hillary Clinton's campaign, and the way that Democrats are seen by some voters as disrespecting them. And I have to ask, does that undercut this closing message of unity from your campaign?
No, certainly not.
Of course. No, it wasn't disunifying at all. You know, Kamala Harris, she really respects the American people. She respects all the people who vote for Trump. She just thinks that he's a Nazi and that he does Nazi rallies. And she holds literal press conferences outside of the vice presidential residence to basically suggest that Donald Trump is a devotee of Hitler. But all the people who support him, they're good-hearted, wonderful people. I don't believe that's what you think about your fellow Americans. I don't believe that. I really, really don't. In just 1 second, we'll get to Donald Trump's closing argument, which actually is pretty solid. It's, hey, I was the president, and it was good. The economy was better under Trump. Things were just better under Trump. But look, on a personal level, there are a lot of people who are, in fact, in debt. Here's the cold, hard truth. Once you're in debt and you get deeper in debt during the holidays, you need a way to fix it. Last year, this is staggering. Half of American consumers took on debt just to pay for the holidays. Here's the thing. It's never too early to start planning your way out. And my friends at PDS Debt can help with a personalized solution just for you. If you're making payments every month on your debt and watching your balances stay exactly the same, that ends right now. PDS has solutions specifically designed to help you get out of this cycle. And unlike the government's debt relief programs, everyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt qualifies. No minimum credit score required. That's right, bad and fair credit accepted. They'll help you save more while paying off your debt in a fraction of the time. I've seen what debt can do to families, especially around the holidays. That's why I trust PDS Debt to help my listeners find real solutions that actually work. Start planning today. Get a free debt analysis right now at pdsdebt.com/Ben. It only takes 30 seconds. That's pdsdebt.com/Ben to get started. pdsdebt.com/Ben. Let them help you if you've gotten into debt. It's hard to get out. PDS Debt can help you. pdsdebt.com/Ben. Also, with the election just 6 days away, we're giving you the most reliable, fact-filled coverage of every move each candidate makes. And of course, full election night coverage happens right here on Daily Wire Plus. But if you need a 90-minute break from the race to the White House, we've got the perfect escape. Am I Racist? The comedy that's now the biggest documentary of the decade is streaming exclusively at Daily Wire Plus. Think you saw all of Am I Racist in theaters? Think again. Daily Wire Plus members get exclusive access to never-before-seen footage, a special deleted scene, and a behind-the-scenes look at how Matt Walsh pulled off the ultimate troll against the left with nothing but a man bun. So kick back, watch from the comfort of your couch or wherever you want with your Daily Wire Plus membership. Now, folks, this is a big problem for the Kamala Harris campaign because her closing candidacy is all about unity. We're all going to get together and turn the page, in the word of Glenn Walls. And that's what it's all about. It's about unity. It's about unity. And the media are trying their awful hardest to make it seem as though Donald Trump is the divisive candidate in the race. So, for example, you have a piece at the Washington Post today titled, "In a race they cast as good versus evil, Christian hardliners are fired up for Trump. Christian nationalist tours, timed to the election, showcase the power and ambition of a movement aimed at erasing the separation between church and state." You scared yet? You scared? You should be super scared. Be scared of the Jesus freaks. Be scared. Be so scared. You mean there are Christians who are invested in an election where one of the candidates has said that she will force Christians to perform abortions? She literally said there should be 0 exceptions to abortion law. And if you're a Christian, there should be no religious exemption for you if you're a Christian hospital. You mean that Christians might be concerned about Kamala Harris, who says that boys are girls and girls are boys? They might be afraid of a federal cramdown along those lines that destroys religious day schools, for example? Those are Christian nationalists. You bigot, you terrible bigot. You people believe in the Bible and Jesus and such. How you're ruining unity. You're ruining unity, says the New York Times. Part revival, part rally, the Louisiana stop of the Rescue America tour reflected the mood inside a powerful MAGA voting bloc in the countdown to Election Day. The organizers, superstars in an ascendant Christian nationalist movement, assured the crowd they could take back the nation from enemies within weeks if only faithful Republicans did their duty and voted for Donald Trump. There are hard-right Christian roadshows now barnstorming the country with a focus on swing states in a razor-close election. Extremism analysts, extremism analysts, they have their fancy analyst hat on, say the tours serve as both a get-out-the-vote juggernaut and a power flex for a Christian supremacist movement that aims to transform the church the same way MAGA did the GOP by forcing out the moderates. By moderates, by the way, the New York Times means people who think that transgenderism is written about positively in the Bible and that the Bible is pro-gay marriage or something. And that abortion is definitely mandated by God. Those would be the Christian moderates the New York Times is picking up. But don't worry, those aren't the only divisive people. There are other divisive people. Donald Trump is really divisive because you know what he's doing? He's pointing out that Latino Americans and Black Americans, if you're going to label them as groups, might have divergent interests sometimes. No, that's ununifying. That's not unifying. See, real unity is when you say people of color versus white people. That's unity, according to the Democratic Party and the New York Times. What's not unity is where you say, not every Latino thinks the same way, not every Black person thinks the same way. And in fact, even if you're going to group people by race, maybe races don't always have the same interests at heart just because they're not white. That is super divisive. How dare you? Headline at the New York Times, how Trump exploits divisions among Black and Latino voters. Quote, for months, the Trump campaign and its allies have effectively exploited divisions and bigotry within minority communities, pitting them against immigrants and each other. Mr. Trump's social media post warns Black and Latino voters that immigrants are coming for their jobs. Wait, if he's warning Latino voters that immigrants are coming for their jobs, how's that racially divisive? Because presumably he's talking about mostly Latino immigrants. In many ways, these appeals to black and Latino voters are not markedly different from those aimed at white voters. Well, yes, that's true, because he tries to appeal to people as individuals with individual minds and judgments. But that is racist and divisive, according to the New York Times. Again, the attempt to turn Kamala Harris's campaign into a unity campaign is a giant fail, and Joe Biden's garbage speech basically just underscores that. We've known this for a while. The divisive party in the United States of America is the Democratic Party. This goes all the way back to 2012, when Barack Obama flipped from a unifying candidate of 2008 to a racially divisive candidate of 2012. The Democrats have been playing this game ever since. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is making his closing argument. You know what his closing argument is? It's a really simple one. It's a really easy one for people to understand. His closing argument is, put aside all the stuff that I say, put the tweets aside. Here's the thing. You saw me be president already, and it was pretty good. That's the whole argument. That's it. Done. That's the argument. You saw Kamala Harris be vice president, and it sucked. And you saw me be president, and it was pretty good. Easy argument. So, for you swing voters out there, for people who are listening to the sound of my voice, God bless you. For the swing voters out there who are listening to this, and you've already decided that you're not sure whether to vote for Trump or whether to vote for Harris, that means that you don't think that Trump's behavior is the dispositive factor in the election. So, I appeal to your reason now. Were you better off in 2019, or are you better off in 2024? Were you better off when the world was quiescent, when the Middle East was burgeoning with peace, when the economy was booming and there was not 40-year high in inflation, when the border was effectively closed? Were you better off then, or are you better off in 2024 after 4 years of massive inflation that has increased prices across the board by perhaps 20% and in grocery stores by more than that? After the Kamala Harris-Joe Biden administration has increased the national debt by $8 to $10 trillion, spent more money than any administration in history. Are you better off after they set the Middle East on fire, massive war between Israel and every Iranian proxy in the region, massive war in Ukraine, a threatening China on the world scene, threatening shipping lanes, threatening Taiwan? Are you better off today with this administration? That's the simple question. That is the simple question. Here was Donald Trump making that closing argument yesterday.
And this is an election that's really a choice between whether or not we'll have 4 more years of total failure. This has been the worst 4 years I've ever seen. Gross incompetence, but total failure, disaster under Kamala Harris. Nobody knows I say all the time, if you say Harris, nobody knows who the heck we're talking about, right? Harris. And this is what we have, or whether we'll begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
He is right. This is a closing argument. It's a very, very simple closing argument. And here's the thing. It's a successful closing argument because people don't like what they've seen. You just can't bank against the American people not liking what they've seen. That's all. And when people do this scaremongering about Donald Trump's going to be Hitler, he was president already. He was president. I'm sorry. That argument may have applied in 2015, 2016. If you were going to make that argument, you had to make that argument in 2015, 2016. Hell, J.D. Vance made that argument in 2016. He's now the vice presidential candidate under Donald Trump. What changed? Trump was already president. That's the answer to the question. And so the desperation has begun to set in with Team Kamala. So first of all, the biggest problem with Kamala Harris is that Kamala Harris is an awful candidate. She's really bad. She can't actually do the basic things expected of a candidate. So Joe Rogan invited her on the podcast. That's a big win for her, right? And Donald Trump just did the podcast. Went really well for him. Joe Rogan is a tremendous interviewer. I've been on his show a couple of times. And Joe is very nice to his guests. He'll push them when he feels like they need to be pushed, but he certainly gives them room to talk. He would not be out there to crucify Kamala Harris or anything like that. Kamala Harris got back to him and said, I will not travel to you. You will travel to me. And our interview will not be 3 hours. It will be 1 hour. And Joe Rogan said, you don't set the conditions for this interview. I am the interviewer. I invite you, and then you come to me. And by the way, 1 hour with Joe Rogan is called the introduction. I did like 2.5 hours each time with Joe, and we were just getting started. I had to break because I had to leave. And we could have gone for another 4 hours probably each time. Joe's podcast is riveting specifically because of this. So Kamala Harris fails that test. And again, she continues to just be terrible at this. No matter how many times she says she grew up in a middle-class family, let's say waves of empathy do not roll off this human. Here she was doing this routine again. How many times can you say you grew up in a middle-class family? No one gives a flying. Here we go. Her and her middle-class family again.
What's your message to Michigan voters in terms of the economy? We have auto workers who are being laid off and those who fear that they might be laid off. The average person can't afford groceries or their rent. And recent polls in Michigan show that Michigan voters believe that Donald Trump would do a better job with handling the economy and bringing jobs back. What do you say to that?
Well, let's start with this. I come from the middle class, and I'll never forget where I come from. My mother worked very hard. She, by the time I was a teenager, was able to save up for our first home.
I mean, am I supposed to take this person seriously? You know, she's asked about people not being able to afford their rent, and her first answer is once again that she's a middle class. She grew up middle class. Like, oh my God, she's so awful. She's so awful. That's why she's losing right now. Okay, then she has to insist that black men are not against her. But she starts dropping into the parlance. So here we go.
We talk a lot up here about the black men conversation, the fact that people, you know, they keep trying to push this whole black men are not supporting Kamala Harris.
That's a lie.
And my question to you is, you know, the fact that, you know, even if it's a lie, people are still saying it. What is your strong push to any black man right now that feels like you're not speaking directly to them and about the things that they should care about for their families and for themselves?
Well, Lauren, I have to tell you back to what Charlamagne is shouting in the background. The brothers aren't saying that. I mean, I was just at the barbershop in Philly talking with very incredible and distinguished men who are leaders in their community in small business and education. And these men, these black men, were talking about not only their support for me, but most importantly, their support for my perspective on what we can do that lifts up the community and taps into the ambitions and the aspirations.
Ambition, aspirations, the brothers. I mean, I love when she just drops into the lingo, the brothers. How often do you think she uses that in her daily life? Truly. She's awful at this. She really, really is. And so she's been relegated to going on Charlamagne the God to explain how often she thinks about how much she hates Donald Trump. Here was Charlamagne asking Kamala Harris about this.
How often do you say to yourself, man, Donald Trump? Just in your mind.
Just play a little Dipsy. One good time.
A little YG. If it's on the playlist, it's cool.
You know, let me tell you, actually, my focus, and honestly, more is on, I love the American people.
Yeah, that is her focus, is on the American people. And if you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn that is for sale. I think my favorite thing about Harris is where she runs streaming from her own positions. So yesterday, there's been some data that suggests that one of the big problems that Republicans have in this election is they mention things Democrats want to do, and people don't believe them. Really. So Republicans will say things like, you know, that one time Kamala Harris actually said that she wanted taxpayer-funded sex change surgeries for prisoners, which she did when she was the Attorney General of the state of California. And people be like, no, she didn't. And be like, no, she really, actually, she did. I'm like, no, she didn't. No, she actually did. Here she was denying the thing that she totally was for.
In the ads, he's saying that, you know, Kamala Harris wants to spend taxpayers' money for sex changes in jails. He spent millions and millions of dollars on, and like Charlamagne said, having him and myself in that. How do you answer that for people that don't know? And what is the real news when it comes to that?
Well, first of all, to your point, he has spent tens of millions of dollars trying to hit me with a bunch of disinformation and misinformation on this. And he's living in a glass house because the policies he's speaking about in terms of those surgeries were also his policies.
No, you advocated for taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners. That's a thing that you advocated, lady. The Democratic Party is so off the rails that people don't even understand how off the rails they are. And it's actually an asset for them. You'll be like, hey, did you know that Democrats support abortion all the way through point of birth? And they'll be like, no, that can't be true. That can't. It's true. I'm sorry, it's true. It's not my fault. I didn't make up that terrible, terrible position. But I suppose that if you are Kamala Harris, your best hope at this point is just to lie about it going forward. Meanwhile, the desperation has full-on set in inside the Democratic Party, of course. It is amazing. So Barack Obama is out on the campaign trail trying to raise up the standard again. He's, Barack Obama, last popular Democratic politician we've had in this country. Non-transferable popularity. He's out there, and he's saying, you know what? That rally the other night, it was bad. It was super bad. Super terrible bad. Super terrible. No good. Very bad bad. Here we go. Barack Obama.
Most of all, Donald Trump wants us to think that this country is hopelessly divided between us and them. between the, quote, real Americans who support him, of course, and the outsiders who don't. The enemies within. Donald Trump understands, and he's not wrong about this, that dividing people, making them angry, will boost his chances of being elected. It's not good for the country, but it might improve his odds.
What an insufferable jack this man is. He truly is. Barack Obama divided Americans from each other better than any president in my lifetime. You can look at it in the polling. It is perfectly obvious. Up until 2012, 2013, race relations in this country were quite good. And then Barack Obama deliberately decided to destroy them so that he could succeed politically. It is available in the polling. Black opinions on the racial relations in the country plummeted in his second term. Same thing for whites. It's never recovered. That was him. And then he talks about division. And that's the shtick. The shtick is just to lie to you. It's just to lie to you. Well, some people are in a full state of meltdown and panic. Representative Debbie Dingell is afraid, apparently, that if Donald Trump is elected, she will end up a prisoner. No one even knows who you are, lady. Like, why? Who wants to take prisoner of what? Really? Okay.
He wants to start internment camps. And that's what we are busy talking to every voter. He's telling you what he's going to do. Believe him.
Internment camps?
Yes. He has talked internment camps. You know what, Jake? You may have to visit me in one. I get worried enough when he talks about what he's going to do to his political enemies.
Man, even Jake Tapper is like, what the what? When even Jake is like, lady, really? You're going to go to Debbie Dingell is going to be in an internment camp thanks to Trump? Nobody believes this nonsense. No one believes it. I am enjoying the spectacle of Stephen Colbert just melting down. So Stephen Colbert went after Jeff Bezos, who is the owner of Amazon, and also, of course, the owner of the Washington Post, because the Washington Post has refused to endorse Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. So Stephen Colbert, a man who is, shall we say, rather low T, says that Jeff Bezos has no balls for not endorsing Kamala Harris, because that's what would have taken balls, is to endorse Kamala Harris as the Washington Post. Yeah, that would have been a ballsy move there. Here's Stephen Colbert, non-comedian.
And now a message from the Washington Post editorial staff.
We here at the Washington Post have received a strict mandate not to endorse either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris for president. We believe that you, the reader, can decide for yourself who is the better candidate. This decision makes our paper stronger, smarter, and one that all undecided voters will be able to read. We believe that attempting to persuade you during a free election is immoral, dishonest, and stupid tiny. Our owner, Jeff Bezos, is simply taking us back to our roots of hard-hitting news and comic strips like Hagar the Horrible, Tracy, and Marmaduke, the neutered Great Dane who has no balls.
It's the Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
So clever. So clever. It's because he has no balls, you see, because he didn't do the thing Stephen Colbert wants him to do. Well, guys, have at it. Honestly, tear each other apart. Enjoy yourselves. Really have a party, because the Trump train, it is moving forward, and right now there ain't no stopping it. We'll see how it goes on Tuesday. Alrighty, folks, coming up, we have to get to some governance issues in Chicago, where apparently if a radical illegal immigrant Muslim shoots a Jew, it's not a hate crime. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro. Check out for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.